Did you know that there is one major roadblock in grants that costs people millions each year? It's this one little part of the entire grant proposal, the grant budget form. Turns out that it is the secret sauce for its ability to convince grant funders that your project, small business or nonprofit, is worth the support. I'm going to show you how to build a great grant budget in 5 steps with pro tips to use and pitfalls to avoid. There's also a secret ingredient to that secret sauce that really sets your proposal apart. First, we have to understand why this actually matters. When a funder reviews your grant budget, they're not just seeing dollar signs. They're picturing your plan in action, the team you'll hire, the community you'll serve, or the customers you'll reach. A sloppy budget tells a story of disorganization, but a clear, aligned budget tells a story of competence, trustworthiness, and vision, and that's what grant funders want to invest in. So how do we start to build a great grant budget? Our first step is not new to Grant Chatter viewers. Find out what they fund and why they fund it. If you haven't already, go to the funder's website, scour the funding announcement and the FAQ page. Here's what you're looking for. What do they want to support? What will they not support? Do they have a required budget form for you to complete? Or is it okay to use your own form? How much are you allowed to apply for? And when will the grant funder pay the grant award? Here's a big pro tip. That last point about the grant payment schedule is important. Do they send a check for the full amount when they award the grant? Do they pay in installments? Or do they pay by reimbursement, meaning that you do the work first and then submit an invoice? Be sure that your small business or nonprofit has the financial strength to withstand waiting for those payments. Okay, friends, buckle up. We're going to build a great grant budget. We'll use 2 fictional examples to demonstrate how this works. A mobile app startup developing their first mental health tracking product for market launch, and a senior wellness nonprofit that serves older adults in rural communities. I'm going to create a chart for each and show them here on the screen. The budget categories are identical, only the specifics change. We'll start with what are called direct costs, meaning all the costs that are directly tied to the project. Let's start with personnel. You can't just write, staff $50,000. You must detail each role, their salary, and the percentage of their time dedicated to this project. Next, fringe benefits such as payroll taxes, health insurance, and retirement. The cleanest method is using your organization's pre-calculated rate. If your rate is 28%, the math is simple. Travel might be part of your project. In this example, I'm going to show you a problem and a pro tip because this section can be kind of tricky for grant funders. The mobile app startup will have meetings with current or new clients as well as the trade show to promote the new app. The wellness program is asking for a conference as well as their daily travels to meet clients. Here's the problem: the conference that the wellness program wants to attend. How will that nonprofit prove that attending a conference directly improves services for their rural clients? Here's the pro tip. It might actually be better if that conference line is replaced by travel to attend a specialized training program for wellness professionals who serve seniors. Do you see the difference? The next 2 categories look similar: equipment and supplies. The difference is often how long these items last. Typically, it's equipment if it lasts longer than 1 year, and supplies if it's mostly used up within 1 year. Here are examples of equipment that can be added into a grant budget if the funder supports equipment costs. Check their guidelines to be sure. And here you can see that items under the supplies category don't have to be physical items. Supplies for the mobile app startup are mostly annual costs for virtual items plus a little bit for paper and staples, while the wellness program uses mostly paper supplies because their senior clients tend to prefer paper copies. This next category can be different for every grant funder: indirect costs. In other words, your overhead, such as rent, utility, leadership salaries, and accounting services. These costs aren't tied to one specific project, which is often why funders don't support them, but no projects could happen without them. This might come with formulas, forms, or signed agreements, but generally, if the funder allows indirect costs, it's by percentage. We'll use 10% in our example. First, we list the total direct costs. Then we subtract equipment costs, if any, and this is a little bit in the weeds because grant funders may have a dollar amount that divides equipment from supplies. In our example, that dividing line is $5,000. That gives us a new total for direct costs. Then there is a line that shows the new total times the indirect cost rate. That total is how much you can ask the grant funder to support your overhead costs. Okay, we'll stop there showing specific line items, but we could cover many more categories such as contracted work, consulting, marketing, inventory, analysis, or evaluation. Or we could go into a whole new territory of renovations or construction. But I hope you see a pattern in these budget line items. They all demand two things: planning and clarity. Earlier in the video, I mentioned a secret ingredient in that secret sauce of a great grant budget. Here it is. It's something with a nebulous name, budget justification, but it can make a real difference in how the funder perceives the quality of your grant proposal. And why is this such a secret ingredient? Because sometimes the grant proposal form is very limited in how much you can describe for the funder. The budget justification gives you a little known extra narrative space to make your case. Let's look at our examples. The lead developer for the mobile app startup is making sure that the product will be ready with all the required structure and approvals. The senior wellness program director isn't out in the field with clients, but he's essential to making sure everything is in place for those who are. So these are two great grant budgets. But even after all this careful work, you might fall into one of these three common grant budget traps that get your proposal rejected. Mismatched numbers. This one is real to me because years ago I made this mistake and lost the grant. I talk about it in my video on grant mistakes to avoid, linked above and in the description below. Remember that you probably have three places where you mention these numbers across the entire proposal: the narrative, the budget, and the budget justification. Triple check everything. Unrealistic costs. Don't guess, get quotes, research salaries. A cost that is too high looks inflated. Too low makes you look inexperienced compared to the other proposals that the grant funder will review. These free searchable websites provide details such as salary information and travel allowances. I place the links to these websites in the description below. Funder award levels. How much is the funder willing to award? Remember earlier in the video, I mentioned researching funder websites, and that includes their award limits. Do those funding limits cover your costs? If not, you'll need to show how other income sources will support your small business or nonprofit. Other income can be service fees or goods sold, rental income, contributions from donors or investors, sponsorships, brand deals, or other grants. And pro tip, in most cases, the grant funder will not award enough to cover all your costs. Honestly, they often don't want to be the sole funder. Now you know how to prepare that great grant budget. Funders can envision your project and how their dollars will make great things happen. It's time for the next crucial step in your grant journey. If you want to make sure you have all the fundamentals down, watch this video next, my comprehensive guide to grants, including government grants, corporate grants, and private foundations, and how they work for small businesses and nonprofits. Click here to watch it now, and I'll see you there.